How hard do you need to work in order to attain the goals that you want to attain? Now, I have seen more and more as a certain degree of socialism has edged into our society, and in my view, socialism is just plain ass lazy. They just want what you got. Straightforward. They just, you work hard, you give us your tax, and I'll spend it. So yeah, you got my political viewpoint there. How hard do you need to work? Well, okay, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, quite a few years. So, a bit younger. I worked for a long time, really hard. Now, I called it my lost decade. That was a strimmer, a petrol strimmer. My lost decade. Now then, this lost decade was actually 13 years, because I worked it out once. I just called it a decade, but it was 13 years. Now, during this 13 years, I was just so focused on the direction that I was going, and I was working. And this was something that I had to discuss with my wife, because 13 years, we had one holiday, which was our honeymoon. And aside from that, maybe the odd weekend down in Cornwall, Devon. So this 13 years, I went proper doolally. So very early in the morning, up at 5 to be at the job for 6. So I was working with a screw gun and a hammer, and I was trying to buy houses at the same time. I was doing everything. I was running jobs. I was running around like a headless chicken. But I needed to do that to get to the stage of where I wanted to be. So I would work late. When I say late, B&Q closed at 9, and so I was regularly in B&Q at 9, just as they're all packing up, because that was a perfect time to grab materials. So that was fantastic. So then came weekends. Well, I don't know what a weekend was, because I worked 6 or 7 days. Very regularly, I would work 7 days. Now, you may well say, well, where's your work-life balance? Yeah, you're right. Work was up here, life was down there. And to a certain extent, I missed out on a lot of my kids' lives and stuff, which I'm not sure was right. I'm not sure it was. Now, you could say, well, yeah, you're like comfortable now. Yeah, I guess I am. I guess I am comfortable. You can't turn that off, though. You can never stop. Now, there's instances, and it's quite funny instances, where, and I've said this before, I put it into a reel, but this is, I got a little bit more time now to explain it. I just needed it rented out. So you pick the key up in the morning, and you'd be desperately trying to rent that place out in the afternoon. And back in the day, you could. HMOs were unregulated, so that was nice and easy. And so there were a couple of occasions somebody would come in and say, well, when will this be ready? And it got no kitchen. You okay? And it got no kitchen. And you say, Monday? You say, well, it's Friday. You say, yeah, I know. You say, well, but you've got no kitchen. Yeah, I know. But it'd be ready. And then I say, well, Monday 4 o'clock. Yeah, 4 o'clock Monday. I'm thinking, damn, how am I even going to do this? And so they'd leave a deposit. Back then, deposits weren't insured back then, and so they'd leave a deposit, and I would just work around the clock. So I worked 72-hour shifts. There was no sleep. I just carried on working. Now, the guys would go home on a Friday, and I would work all day Saturday through Saturday night, and everybody be having a beer. Oh, we're all having a beer, we're having a time, you know. And my phone, I look at my phone and be ringing, but I was busy tiling or cutting or building or laying a floor or painting. You name it, I was doing it. But you know what? By Monday, 4 o'clock, or the guys would come on site on Monday morning and see it had almost finished. And there it was. It was ready. The house was let at 4 o'clock. People moved in. People would say your dog's in the way. Some people would say you're lucky to be where you are right now. Am I lucky? Well, I guess I'm lucky. it would appear the harder you work, the luckier you get. Now, that just didn't happen once or twice. Things like that happen all the time. And I had to have the backing of my wife, who'd bring me food. She'd bring me stuff, and I would just be working and working. Now, that worked out really well in the end. But this lost decade, did I do it right? Did I do it wrong? I don't know. I don't know. There were years of my life that I missed through work, that I didn't see my children. There were younger years when I could have spent time with my wife and I didn't. I don't know. I don't know if I was right or wrong. So I would say, where I've seen that I worked and worked and worked, compared to what I see on Instagram, TikTok, and to a certain extent YouTube, where I've just had a message from a guy, and he was talking about lease options, lease purchase options, and in this message he said he's paid $6,000 to somebody to teach him about lease purchase options, and out of that, from what I can gather, the guy ain't got nothing. And I'm talking to him, and so I guess it's legal what people are selling. I guess what price do you put on advice? If it is advice, I don't know. You pay $6,000 to a solicitor, I guess. He would list his costs on an hour-by-hour basis. Does somebody selling a course on lease purchase options or how to rent, do they provide an hourly breakdown? I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone would say. Now, I'm not saying it. I'm certainly not saying it, but there are people that are jumping out and saying this is just an outright scam. I don't know. Where I spent literally years working, I'm watching other people on a jet ski in Dubai taking thousands of pounds off people for advice that would appear, and it's not me saying it, but the advice would appear very weak in nature. I don't know. I'm sure these people will introduce friends or people they've worked with that have been successful, and I assume that's true. I don't know. All I can say is I worked and I worked and I worked, and then people come along and say either I'm lucky or tax the rich, you're not paying your fair share. I don't know. Work really, really hard, single focused, proper mental, go mental about it, in my view, is a way to make some good money. I don't know. But then if these people are making way more money than me, then I don't know, I could well be wrong. I could well be wrong.